guys, thank you for checking out Mekanos Cards, a channel dedicated to the love of the art of playing card. And so in this, I'm getting to share a lifelong passion with a hopefully large community, but if not a large community, certainly a great community, and I really appreciate you guys for being here. This is officially the first video of Mekanos Cards, the first actual tutorial, and I thought when I was looking through it, what kind of move could I teach people that would really kind of give them a taste of some of the more flashy stuff that I'm going to be going over on the channel. If you're here today for learning a magic trick or a card sleight used in a casino environment, today's tutorial is probably not going to scratch that itch for you. But if you're looking for something nice and flashy as a billboard to advertise your already growing skill of cardistry or already growing repertoire with a deck of cards, I figured today I would teach you a basic principle, which is how to break in a brand new deck of cards, as well as the spring. So for those who don't know, this is not a new deck of cards. For anybody who is interested, these are just tally-ho circle backs. They're very easy to get. I'll leave a link in the description. This is a pretty well broken in pack of playing cards. So I'm going to open a new pack and I'll show you all that. But for right now, the spring is a fairly simple thing. You've seen it on cartoons and television shows where they want to embellish how good somebody is at a deck of cards. They want to emphasize how good somebody is with a pack of playing cards. And so in order to do that, they show them doing, and I'll show you this, they show them doing something like this. And usually they'll show it sideways, right? When you're going up and down, you can really get a really nice motion. And it can be a little messy sometimes, but it's basically this motion with a pack of cards. And so I know some of you out there are thinking, oh, they're connected by string. That is a thing. It's called a lightning deck. We're not using that, okay? So I'm gonna get into that, but first I wanna teach you how to break in a pack of cards, because maybe you don't have a pack of cards. Maybe you're not an avid cardist and you're just kind of jumping into it, and that's perfectly okay. So maybe you're gonna run out right now to your local store, you're gonna pick up a fresh pack of cards, you're gonna open those cards up and then you're gonna try it, and it's gonna go absolutely everywhere because new cards fresh out of the pack just aren't the best for this. It's kind of this fine middle line, because cards that are completely worn out are also not the best option. So we're gonna try as best as we can to show what's going on. I hope that the sound of the cards isn't drowning me out. Hopefully you guys can hear me nice and clear. So let's grab a fresh pack of cards. I apologize if I keep looking over here. I've got stuff over here that's kind of helping me know what's going on the camera and stuff, so sorry about that. You can throw the box out. First thing you're probably gonna notice about this pack of cards is, wow, these pack of cards are clean. That'll change with use, trust me, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the cards are gonna get worse. So your pack of cards are nice and clean, everything's working out well, except for they're incredibly slippery. You can put them in your hand, put them in the palm. Look at that, look how slippery those are. So are these great to work right out of the box with? Absolutely. Are there effects that you can do? Can you go into a gambling routine with these? Absolutely, you sure can. However, you're gonna notice that cards are gonna be slipping out of your grip, and some of the things that you're wanting to do probably aren't gonna cooperate perfectly, because this pack of cards is brand spanking new, and that definitely means some slipping. So the first thing you could learn to do, and just make it a habit, I do it with cards that are fairly worn in, is just riffle the pack. Riffle the pack with your thumbs, get a feel. You're riffling off those cut edges that are a little rougher, and you're getting each of the cards to bend ever so slightly in both directions, just like this. Now to counterbalance that in the back, I'm also riffling like this. So when I hold the pack, I'm actually holding the pack like this, and I'll riffle just like that. Another thing you can do is start the spring kind of motion. This corner right here is gonna nestle in between the pinky and third finger. So fingers 3 and 4 here are gonna kind of nestle that corner in, and then your thumb's gonna come down here, right there. You can actually just bevel the cards down like that gently and let those ride. Turn them face up, do the same thing, right? Just gently let those ride. Try to do it, if you can, as best you can, where it does it just one card at a time. Another thing you could do and should probably do is much what I did at the very beginning, fan the pack. Fan the pack, let the cards rub up against each other a little bit. Let them kind of get a feel for them. This is more or less for you rather than the cards. Getting a good feel for them, something like that. Nothing too terrible. The last thing you can do, and this is the big thing for me, is a Faro Shuffle. So if you don't know what a Faro Shuffle is, I'll show you it. It's really simple. And there we have a nice Faro Shuffle. Now that's a perfect Faro, so that's 1 for 1. Finish it off with a light bridge. I like to do mine upwards. You can do yours downwards, but all you're gonna do is take your hands, put them right here, push down gently while leaving the thumb and fingers to support. So I'll do mine up and try to get them as close to 1 card at a time. And that's the very gentlest shuffle that I like to do in this case, because I don't want to bend the cards too much. All right, so after that, you're doing your practice. You're riffling the cards, you're gently shuffling them together. Now the cards are in a different order. By the way, fun fact, if you do that Faro Shuffle perfectly, I believe it's 8 times, you get the deck back in new deck order. After that, you're riffling the cards, you're doing that. You can also give it some cuts, getting a feel for the pack. Give it a couple of cuts. Make sure you have a good feel for the pack. This is not just about breaking the pack in, it's also about you getting comfortable with the pack. So while you're breaking the pack in and the pack is becoming more malleable for you to use, it's also you getting used to what this pack feels like and feeling like you have a little bit more control. Now you can also dribble the cards. Dribbling the cards doesn't typically, in my experience, do that much. But if you do decide you want to dribble the cards, I'll show you how to do that too. It's very simple. These are very quick break-in tutorials. This is not supposed to be a whole bunch of stuff. The main feature's coming up, I promise. So when you're dribbling the cards, same situation, you're just gonna hold the pack like this, or like whatever is comfortable for you. Now I will show you that the original grip is like this. We'll go into this in more detail at some of the table videos when we're talking about dealing. But for now, holding the pack like this, and then just putting your hands like this over the pack and kind of a claw grip. So you're gonna have, this is a version of what we would call Biddle grip, okay? So Biddle grip looks like this when I put my finger here so I can add pressure where this back fingernail is making contact with, and this card is perfect, this little centerpiece of the card, okay? And then these 3 fingers are making contact with this short side, this thumb is making contact with this short side. And when I get ready to riffle, all I'm doing is pushing down with the finger and pulling up with these fingers as best as I can. The thumb will likely, having more strength, push down that in first. And you're just gonna try and dribble the cards as best as you can, 1 at a time. So. And that's how you dribble a pack of cards. It's as simple as that. One last thing to keep in mind, if you set your pack of cards down in your hand, or if you set your pack of cards down on a table, after a while you're gonna notice cards are gonna start to bevel like this. And that's because when cards are made, they have a certain tolerance and a certain threshold and a certain area for humidity, temperature, heat, right? And typically, the areas that we have are not the same as the factories that they were made in. So in this case, it's pretty hot in here because I've got lights and cameras and electronics all over the place. And so because of that, if I let this pack rest here for a while, the cards are gonna bevel, at least this top card will, and this bottom card probably as well. This top card's probably gonna bevel in this U shape. And this bottom card, if I hold the pack like this, it's probably gonna bevel the same direction, in a U shape towards my hand because of the heat and the humidity of my hand. So if you're wanting to perform and you're performing in a hot area or it's humid, your cards are gonna get really messed up. Try to do it if you can in a nice temperature controlled area. Luckily, not too humid in here, it's just hot. All right, so I'm gonna teach this spring. This is the part that I was looking at. We've learned how to break in a pack of cards. I know that was a little long-winded, but if you're really wanting to do this in a way that is comfortable for you, I think it's really important to know how to break in a pack of cards. I think it's very, very key. And oftentimes I think it's really overlooked. Don't worry about it if you drop cards. I drop cards all the time. Let's think of it this way. Let's say you've had your phone for 5 to 10 years or even 20 years. You drop your phone, you're gonna drop your cards. It's gonna happen. Don't be embarrassed. Own it, move on with the tricks. You'll see me dropping cards, trust me. All right, so in this case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold this in a grip called the Straddle grip. We're gonna focus this into a grip called the Straddle grip. All right, so if you are right-handed, you're gonna be holding the cards in your left hand. So you're gonna take this is my left hand, You're gonna take this and you're gonna put it in your hand. I'm gonna take my thumb and I'm gonna just let my thumb rest around it. This feels awful, by the way. If you've been playing with cards for a while and you're used to these different grips, this is so hard to do. Next, I'm gonna take my pinky and I'm gonna put it down here. And lastly, I'm going to put my finger on top. But let them rest in the fingers. If you take a look at how much space I have there. This is a grip dedicated to keeping the cards secure and making sure that they stay in your hand, in your grip. So the basic grip for catching the cards is this exact finger formation, right? One down here, finger one up here, finger four down here, fingers 2 and 3 here, and the thumb over here. So for your main hand grip, you're gonna hold the cards in a slightly different position. So we're gonna hold them kind of like this. This is Biddle grip is what we would call this, but we're gonna modify this a little bit so that we can get those cards to spring really nice and comfortably, okay? So the idea is, in this case, this corner and this corner are our main points of contact. So we're gonna let our 4th finger and 3rd finger, finger 4 and finger 3, we're gonna let the corner, the top corner with the index, rest here. If you're left-handed, it's gonna be the one without the index, okay? You can see that right there, my pinky is here. This corner is kind of resting in between finger 3 and finger 4. My thumb should be right on the corner and just the tips of my thumb basically here. Everybody thinks that you spring the cards outwards like this. This is how you hold them and then you spring them outwards. You can't get enough power that way. What we're gonna do instead is we're gonna put it at the very tips of our fingers, just like I showed in that grip before, and then we're gonna actually push them in towards the palm. So we're gonna push these fingers together towards each other, and then we're gonna let the deck bevel in towards our hands. This creates a slingshot effect. There's additional rigidity inside of the cards that's looking to spring out. And so because we're holding it at the tips of our fingers, we're getting a much more even spring. Because we're bending it away from each other, we're getting extra power from the rigidity of the deck itself, the desire for the deck to go back to being in straight line. And then by just learning a light touch, we're mitigating the amount of friction that happens between these fingers. Instead of sliding against our fingers where it's pulling against every little notch in our fingerprint, we're pushing this way so that the back, the smooth, slippery part of the card back here is actually what's sliding out of our fingers. So here's the right hand actually springing the cards now that we have that. So yeah, that's all you're doing is just springing those cards, gently rocking that hand open while putting pressure, and you can see we're getting a nice even spring. This is a very small spring. And I'm in the straddle grip. This is the same way I was holding the pack, but now I'm gonna splay those out a little bit like this. And what that's gonna do is create a cradle that the cards are gonna fall into. Your deck is not gonna end up, when you spring it, it's not gonna end up perfectly like this in your hand. If you take a look at how the cards are landing. I'm gonna get out of the way of the light, I keep doing that, but like this, and you look, they land, I'll do it slowly. They land in the hand decently square, but really what it's doing is I'm shooting for this, I'm aiming for this top piece right here, and then they're hitting that and they're sliding gently into my pinky, right? The best thing is to underreact versus overreact. If you overreact, you're gonna grab the cards, you're gonna crush the cards, you're gonna bend the cards, and you're gonna make your next spring harder. If you feel like that you're gonna drop some cards, drop the cards, let them fall, pick them up. All right, so I want to show some variations on a theme, and I want to kind of get you comfortable with thinking about how you want to develop your spring. The spring is not the same thing for everybody. When I'm doing a spring, it's typically as a billboard for what I do. It's typically me in a restaurant actually legitimately practicing. Usually I'm having a drink, maybe it's a coffee shop, sitting there, I'm having a coffee, I'm typing or I'm writing or I'm doing something, I'm studying, whatever the case might be. And then I would, for me, for comfort, it's become cathartic for me, you just spring. This is a billboard. This is a way people will understand what you do. At least they'll understand that you're proficient enough with cards to do that. And that's like a switch in their head. A lot of times they'll pop up to you, hey, do you know, it's a stereotype, do you know a magic trick? And that's a good icebreaker because they're the ones breaking the ice. The first thing, you're probably gonna start off with a real small spring like this. You're probably not even gonna fully separate the hands the first few times, really. And then you're just gonna practice on getting wider and wider and wider, and eventually you'll be able to drop them from a pretty high distance. But when you bring your hand up, your right hand or whatever your dominant hand, the hand that's gonna be on the top of the pack, when you bring that hand up, the cards in between seem to go in much more of a slow motion. To me, it feels like that. When I bring my hand down away from the pack, it feels like they're much faster falling. And so when I do it this way, you'll notice that my spring is a good size, but it doesn't last for very long. Whereas when I do this, it does seem like they last a little longer and they're a little bit more spread apart. Those are just kind of variations on a theme. I think I feel myself dropping my offhand more frequently than bringing my on-hand up. Basically just keep in mind that firstly, it's great, it's breaking the cards in, it's helping these cards even more than you already did when opening the pack with your riffle exercises, with a few shuffles, with a few cuts. Spring is a very, very powerful way of breaking in a pack of cards very nicely and getting them to kind of uniform consistency in your favor, right? More malleable. The next thing is, yet again, it's a great billboard. If you're walking out in public, if you're at a restaurant, if you're at a coffee shop, if you're out with friends and you pull a pack of cards out and you set them down, most people are gonna think, oh, he plays poker, he's got cards, he dabbles, he's a hobbyist, he's gonna play solitaire. Nobody's thinking about their interaction with you because of the cards. They're just thinking that you have a pack of cards. You take the cards out of the pack and you give them one nice small spring break. And the smaller the spring, the quieter it typically is. You give it a nice small spring like that, give it a cut, drop it on the table again, go right back to your notes. Immediately you're gonna have a person or two look because they heard the noise, and then there you go.